that was inspiring to hear from the Congresswoman, and I will wrap up here in just a few minutes and leave you with a takeaway, if I may. So I told you before it was 11% purging to control weight back when television had been there for 3 years. When we looked in 2007, we found that of our 500 girls in the study, 42% were purging to manage weight. This had skyrocketed. And the next thing we looked at was, well, what is causing it and how does television relate? How do media relate? And this was a big study. So we measured everything, every social exposure we could think of. We looked at age, we looked at body mass index, urban versus rural. Were they westernized? Were they Fijian still traditionally? Had they been off island? And then what kind of media exposures did they tell us about? Was it them sitting in front of a TV? Was it their parents watching TV? Was it, what kind of devices are in the home? Or was it their social network? Was it their friends and same-sex peers at school watching TV? And we ran something, a linear regression model. I have other models to show. I'm happy to send them for anyone who's interested. And I'll tell you the headline here, that when we controlled for all these exposures, we found that the impact, the robust, independent impact of media on girls and eating pathology in Fiji was the social network exposure. That means that in terms of eating pathology, you did not have to watch TV yourself. You did not have to have a TV yourself. You only had to have friends who watched TV to suffer the harmful impact of media exposure on eating pathology in Fiji. Okay, so what's chapter 3? Chapter 3 is about the future. It's also about eating disorders globally, and globally includes us. And in order to understand or to talk about the future, we really have to take away some lessons from the past. I show this picture of Melrose Place. That was another one of the favorite shows in Fiji. Here was a piece that Newsweek did on our study showing who else but Heather Locklear, who was one of the favorite characters that Fijian girls wanted to look like. And when Aaron Spelling's production team was asked about, did you know that you're having this negative impact on Fijian girls? His spokesperson, I don't think you can read this, but his spokesperson came back with a comment that said something to the effect of, oh, we're sorry this seems to be happening. It's fantasy, right? Well, if it's fantasy and not harmful, if you understand that it's fantasy, right? But the Fijian girls didn't. They took the images they saw on TV to be truth. Just like girls in the US and all around the world take what they read in print media, see on TV to be truth. That response, by the way, from his team is not only indifferent, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible, and it's wholly inadequate. We have evidence now from the Global Burden of Disease study, the data were just published in Lancet, that eating disorders is on the march around the world. And that in the last 20 years, between 1990 and 2010, a time when media have gone global, there's been increasing globalization of commerce and distribution of media. The disability associated with eating disorders around the world has increased by 65%. 65%. And I'm going to close by leaving you with two thoughts. The first is this. We tend to think about eating disorders or any disorder, any illness for that matter, as an individual problem, but it never is. It's a problem of the social context, and in this case, the social milieu is exposed to something that's harmful. And finally, I want to close with a picture of my daughter Izzy, who's here today with her sister Juliet, and shown with her friend Bulawasiti, who's the granddaughter of a chief in Fiji. And I want to show these two because I've been asked to speak to you today as a doctor, as a scientist, but you don't have to be a doctor or a scientist to understand or to get or grasp the chilling implications of the story of what happened in Fiji after TV arrived. You only have to be a parent a friend, or a concerned citizen. So please take away this message. Whether it's my Fijian collaborator's daughter, my daughter, or yours, they all deserve our biggest ideas, our best science, and our unwavering commitment to protecting them from the harms of unrealistic and unreal images. Thank you.
Blown away, Dr. Becker, by how you can take your